Hey folks, Dave from Nerdarchy, for Nerds by Nerds, and today I'm hanging out with Joho from Starcalled Studios. We're going to talk about world building and campaign settings for Dungeons and Dragons and other role-playing games. So, tell us a little bit, about yourself and what you guys are working on.
Okay.
Where they can find you.
Well, we are Starcalled Studios. I'm one of the head writers for the campaign setting. It's the Zodiac Empires campaign setting. You can find information about it at starcalledstudios.com. It's a fantasy campaign setting with rules compatible for Pathfinder as well as 5th edition D&D.
All right, so we're here at Gen Con, and we've been wrangling folks, and you guys have been working stuff on from Starcalled Studios, and I figured campaign settings, that's what you guys are doing. That'd be a great topic for us to talk about.
Sure.
What approach did you folks take when you started it? I believe it was someone's campaign, right?
Yeah. Brad Diamond, he's kind of our de facto leader. He was playing in the world Vathis for a good 10 years before we actually published anything. So it's got a lot of history behind it, and he's seen it from the beginning when it was just sketchings on some lined notebook paper into the 300-page book it is now. So
now, how hard was that? Like going from someone else's campaign setting they've been working on for a long time to you guys turn it into a product? What do you feel like the rest of the team brought to developing that campaign setting? Some things, some tips and tricks that people could use for their own campaign settings.
Well, one big thing that we kind of focused on that I personally like about our setting is plot hooks are a really big thing to get a good campaign setting going. If you develop a world that's got like fully functioning economy and a political system, that's all well and good, but if your players don't have a way to engage with the world and get involved in the nitty-gritty, it's going to get a little boring for them. So good plot hooks, reasons for people to go on adventures, reasons to play Dungeons and Dragons in a campaign setting.
Those are all great things. What about what do you think you need to do when you're making your campaign setting for whether it's Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinders, Cypher, whatever the role-playing game, it doesn't really matter. Yeah. What do you think are the really important things to kind of like separate yourself from other campaign settings? Did you guys have like beats that you knew you just had to hit?
A lot of that comes from picking out what you like best about the game and the kind of game you like playing. Brad is a huge fan of like 1920s noir stories and stuff like that, so he kind of took that theme and he made it his own. So our tech level within our setting, it's close to that, but he's modified it with like magic crystals and stuff to make it a little bit more interesting and personalized. So the best way to come up with something that's interesting for other people is come up with something that's interesting for yourself. Play what you know, write what you know. If you are a huge fanatic of Greek mythology and you want to make a campaign setting, draw inspiration from that. Take monsters, myths, even gods and stuff, and modify them and tweak them and base your stuff around that.
So what Brad kind of did was he kind of did a genre blend.
Yeah.
He added some modern elements and some technology into fantasy, making it kind of like a sci-fi fantasy system. Yeah. Or a science fantasy, I believe they call it.
We use the term magic punk.
Magic punk. We like the phrase Arcana punk. We've used that as well. And that kind of speaks to like one of the games that I ran. We did a 13 session campaign for a different system, Open Legend role-playing game. Okay. And we kind of let our patrons vote on what kind of genre they wanted. And like it was really close between espionage, fantasy, steampunk, and eldritch horror. Yeah. So I'm like, I don't know, I guess I'll just do them all, And so we, combined them all, the elements that I thought were really cool, and then looked for inspiration from books that I've read, novels I've read, movies I've watched, in order to kind of blend those together into something that was cohesive. Mm-hmm. And that, I think that part that's where like the magic kind of happens.
Yeah. A lot of people, they're hesitant to pull from their favorite source material. Like they'll have their favorite movies and they'll know every line of the movie, can quote it verbatim, and they're in love with the setting and they know all the background of it. People are oftentimes, I think, afraid to pull from it because they don't want to feel like they're copying it. But if you're creative enough and you put your own spin on it, no one will ever be able to tell, because if you're putting your own spin on it and you're really passionate about your own campaign setting and making it your own, it'll come off as your own.
Now, do you or your team kind of have like an internal litmus test that you use to kind of like weigh that against?
Absolutely. There's nothing gets through printed without getting reviewed by the team as a whole, and for the inner workings, there's kind of a core dev team, and I'm one of those members, and we'll bounce ideas off of each other. The thing that pops into mind is there was this huge debate. Brad really wanted to put in something with werewolves and vampires, and he's a big fan of like the Underworld series of movies. But me and Rachel, Brad's fiance, were like, that's been overplayed so much. And when we were talking about it, like the last Twilight movie had just come out, Rachel and I we're so sick of vampires versus werewolves. You can put vampires, let's wait on werewolves and put them somewhere else. Let's do something new. I'm sick of the vampire versus werewolf thing. So
yeah. Can they just fight somebody else?
Right.
Yeah, and for you guys watching at home, if you don't have a team, but you have a group, right? So that's the same thing, and that's where you can kind of like, you can test your ideas, see how they feel about them, order them. And also the other thing is, if you're playing at home and this is just your home game, it doesn't even matter what you steal and what you use. It's not like you're trying to publish it or anything. It's not like it's going to be held up against things that are already existing. It's just like, does your group enjoy it? So in this instance, like the vampires and the werewolves, if it's someone's home game, it doesn't really probably matter. If everyone's having fun with it and they don't care if it's been played to death because they want to play it to death, then it's totally okay.
Yeah. A lot of the ideas that we came up with, we play in our setting constantly. I think I'm involved in 3 different games right now within the setting. And as we play, we come up with little details that make sense for our world that we just jot down while we're playing to make note of, so it can carry over into other games we do within the setting and eventually products and stuff we do for the setting. So just playing in a setting, it can evolve, history can change if it's just your home game. If it's just a home game especially, no one's going to care if you make something cooler.
And, it's so much easier to fix.
Right.
There's no books to recall. So what about, in your home campaign settings, what about like monsters and other things that make it iconic? What are some of the touchstones you like to include?
I'm a big fan of, in games I run, doing Indiana Jones style like tombs for dungeons and going through those. So I have a ton of constructs and ancient guardians for stuff like that, and that's translated over to some of the products that we're putting out. So just any little thing that you enjoy for monsters or anything especially, I love.
So does that also mean like seeding your world with places, with those places as well?
Yep.
And telling the stories about how they came to be and why is this this trap-ridden dungeon or tomb, or what was it before?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, one of my biggest pet peeves as a GM is having traps in a dungeon that make no sense. Like, why would a wizard put like an arrow trap in his library if it's like his private library? Like, every time he goes to get a book, does he have to step over the tripwire and remember exactly where that is? To me, that seems a little excessive. But if he's like guarding a treasure that he only accesses like once a year or something, that makes a little bit more sense. So giving reasons to put like traps or monsters in certain locations, it's definitely something to keep in mind. The easiest way in my mind to do it is think, I really want to use this cool monster or something. Well, why is this monster here? He's here because he's guarding this treasure. What's this treasure? This treasure belongs to this organization. What's that organization? So you kind of get in a train of thought where you just expand on basic ideas, and it can lead you to creating entire nations for your setting.
Now, to go in a little bit different direction, if you were to create a brand new campaign setting today, where would you start? What would be the first thing that you would look at?
Obviously, I've been doing a lot of fantasy work, and I'm a big sci-fi buff too. I'd probably just do a complete genre shift, make like a sci-fi setting, start with some weird, crazy alien planet, and just go from there. I like really out there stuff sometimes. So
when you're creating, do you do there's like 2 methods that I can think of off the top of my head, and that is where you focus small and then work your way out, or do you go with big overarching this is the world style campaign setting building?
I do small and up. Like, I'll get a character concept in my head, like very specific, And then I'll have to build, all right, where is he from? His hometown, and how did he get started, and who does he know? I almost do it character building style. I'll build a character, and then I'll build a world around them.
Oh, that's interesting. Do you have a particular type of character you use for that? Or is it anything?
It depends on my flavor of the week. I lean towards, personally, very chaotic good characters. I like people who are moving around a lot and doing good, but they're not necessarily with the law. But in coming up with those characters for the world, I get to think about the law that's potentially chasing them, the rules that they're breaking, the kind of good things that they would want to do, and the kind of people they'd want to stop in the world. I'm a very character-focused person when I develop anything.
Yeah, well, that's actually pretty interesting because like that's even more microscopic than I was thinking. Like I'm like, well, here's a town where the party will start adventuring in, and then I start kind of populating that town. But I actually like that what you said there. That's an interesting perspective of like, well, how would this individual that I've created interact with the world around them? Well, then you have to decide, well, what is that world around them, and kind of, you know, that first person kind of view instead of the top down. Because whether you're doing like, oh, I'm going to build the whole world all at once, or just this little section, I always think kind of like top down.
Yeah.
What are some other tips that you would like to give people?
Take notes on everything. Anything that you think might inspire you. Any ideas that you have. I know for a fact we use like internet messaging a lot of times to just collaborate and talk about stuff. At one point we were using a service and it didn't save the messages, and we lost paragraphs of just content, of ideas of us brainstorming, and it was really good content that I wish we still had. So just make sure you write stuff down, you keep good notes of ideas that pop in your head. Start carrying around a little journal. I know some people, they think better right before they go to bed or when they're in the shower. Just get those ideas on paper, get them written down, because if you lose them, sometimes they don't come back.
I did see one creator I know that they actually had notes in their shower, like written on the wall.
That's not a bad idea. Like wet or dry erase, but you'd have to find something that didn't erase, but yeah.
yeah, like I was like, what is this? And they're like, oh, I had this idea. And I was in the shower.
That's awesome.
I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. But yeah. What is your favorite aspect about the world that you guys created?
So my favorite aspect, personally, little background, in the setting, there's this big cataclysmic event called the Darkest War, and it ruined a good amount of civilization. And with that, cities that were once bigger have shrunk down. But that also means that there's ruins of the city literally right outside the now existing walls. So to look for adventure and whatnot, people don't have to go far. They can go explore ruins literally down the road outside the city limits. I like being able to just jump into adventures like that and explore things that people who are older remember still standing. They're recent ruins. I like that idea of fresh, ready to explore. And it gives you a chance to, like, why wasn't this ruin raided by a dozen other adventuring parties before? Well, because you are the first adventuring party who's even thought to go out there. That sort of justification, something about it really just kind of tickles me.
Now you got me thinking, right? I'm thinking about these buildings that are the ruins outside of the city, and I'm like, the adventurers show up and they're squatters. Except for the squatters are all like monsters.
Absolutely. That sort of thing happens all the time because there's still demons and the stuff that were causing the problems in the first place. There's remnants of that out there, so I love those sort of ideas, just like you were saying, squatters and unexpected ne'er-do-wells that are living just outside the city.
That's awesome. I want to thank you for your time and hanging out with me today. Where can people find you?
You can find us at starcalledstudios.com. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Starcalled Studios for all of those. We do also stream games on Twitch, twitch.tv/Starcalled Studios. I think we have 3 different games going. 4. It will be 4. There's Ladies of Vathis, Stop, Drop, and Roll, and Keymasters right now, and there's a 4th one coming that's to be named.
And by the time this goes up, that may actually be going. So thanks for hanging out with me. I want to thank everyone for watching. Continue the discussion. Give us your best campaign setting and world building tips down in the comments below. While you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, stay nerdy.